Every film is political. Most political of all are those that pretend not to be entertainment movies. They are the most political films because they because they dismiss the possibility of change. In every frame, they tell you everything's fine the way it is. They are a continual advertisement for things as they are. Master filmmaker Wim Wenders, and he's quite correct. Nothing has come out of Hollywood in a long time that has done anything but reinforce the status quo and the directed political narrative of the people in charge, which is why I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to have the A24 Film Group's Civil War dropped in my lap in an advanced screening in IMAX this week. It is far and away one of the heaviest films that I have ever seen. And it is morally ambiguous. In spite of the imagery, it provides no easy answers. In spite of the imagery, it provides no bad guys, no good guys. It's told from the perspective of a burned out photojournalist. Kirsten Dunst's best role ever, and I never thought those words would escape my face. People looking for politics in this film on either side are going to be bitterly disappointed. No white hats, no black hats, no good guys, no bad guys, no Trumpers, no libtards, just Americans killing Americans. You've heard me lament for a long time on this program what we are inevitably building up to if we do not step back from the brink. I am no servant of the regime, but I break no bread with the Boogaloo crowd either, chomping at the bit to get a chance to put bullets in their countrymen. What the hell have we come to? And this film asks that question. Asks that question, I should point out, does not give that answer. No background is given as to how we got here, which in a film of this gravity and this magnitude is exactly as it should be. We can just take a look around at the world and see how we got there, the opening point of that film. Arguably, we have not been more polarized since not the Civil War, that's the easy one, but since the year of the trip hammer, 1968. The seeds of leftist insurgency already taking root, eroding the Western values of American culture. We are at a point now where we no longer see our opponents as people with bad ideas, but as bad people with ideas. As if we needed this erosion from the inside out with the global threats that we are facing. A wide open southern border, which could be laid at the feet of one or the other Civil War factions if we take it in the long game. ISIS sleeper cells in America. They're talking about that on CNN, a devout regime propaganda wing. Has anyone noticed the nearly inexplicable upsurge in single male military age men coming across the southern border from China? A regime, by the way, not exactly known for just letting its people leave whenever they want in search of a better life, let alone cross a Pacific Ocean to get here. I'm sure it's nothing. Just like this was nothing. Again, an accident, no evidence to indicate anything to the contrary. But does it not expose a vulnerability? And just this week on the Ohio River, Do you live by the river, Willard? Sorry, had to. On the Ohio River, 26 barges broke loose. Again, no indication that it was anything but an accident. In fact, that river was high above flood stage, and it made perfect sense for those things to come loose from their moorings. I am not suggesting in any way, shape, or form this was an attack, but it does expose another vulnerability, does it not? Those barges right there are carrying coal. Just as many were carrying fertilizer. My Texas people, Texas City, ring a bell? Anyone who was paying attention to that little incident in Lebanon a couple of years ago? This is a big deal. And if we are, in fact, eroding from within, and we are, in fact, polarized and on the verge of a civil war, do you not think that it is just as easy for one faction of Americans or another to exploit these vulnerabilities as it would be for these guys? Yes, we do have existential, categorical threats from within. We don't even need to worry necessarily. Well, we certainly need to worry, but we don't even have to pay attention to what's coming across our southern border to see the threat. Oh, look at these cute, cuddly fellas. This is the John Brown Gun Club. That's right, guys. The same Antifa maggots that burned down U.S. cities for the better part of an entire year not so very long ago have taken up arms. Their effectiveness notwithstanding, or lack thereof notwithstanding, does it not present a threat or a faction? This is the NFAC, the No Effing Around Coalition, an armed militant wing of Black Lives Matter. Do they not represent a faction? And yet, with this classic backlighting, this regime puppet told us that what we really had to fear, I mean really deep down, we're not these guys or these guys, and well, these guys are too cuddly and these guys are historically marginalized. Now, what we need to be worried about are these guys, who at the very root just want to be left alone. These guys wearing these dangerous right-wing extremist patches and standing for the most dastardly of moral principles like freedom, liberty, and the Constitution, combating corruption, not wanting to see the fall of the Republic. But I don't care which side of this you're on. You could stand with these maggots. You could stand with these upstanding young men, and you can see one or the other for either side, good, evil, white hat, black hat. But in the end, it comes down to Americans killing Americans. We're seeing a rematch in this election, and I'll spare you the lawfare, I'll spare you the rhetoric, I'll spare you every single thing that we've already beaten to death. But this is symbolic of the nature of the polarization, not the men themselves and not their followers, but the narrative that is being driven. I was in a conversation earlier this week. You have to concede that the loudest voices are on the extremes, the extreme right and the extreme left. That's where the loudest voices are. And neither of them are reflected in the millions in the middle that want to step back from the brink. Unfortunately, one extreme controls the levers of power. One extreme controls the levers of culture, academia, media, entertainment. I worry, as was laid out cinematically for me in a way the power of which could not be denied by the A24 film group. And again, what a brilliant piece of cinema. My concern is that it is no longer a distant fear. My concern is that it is no longer remote apprehension, but indeed an inevitability. No person in his right mind wishes to see such a thing take place. No man with a righteous soul will shirk from the responsibility. God forbid it come. For those who are not up to it, I'm going to refer you to Jeremiah chapter 51. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance, and he will render unto her a recompense. For those who choose to stand, for those who choose, who know, who are convicted in their heart that the principles of the West, that the principles indeed of this country must survive. If there is any hope for a moral compass left on this earth, I will refer you to Ephesians. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with the belt of truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and righteously stand. God forbid this moment come. And I pray to God that this moment would pass us by. But as close as it is right now, it is not only irresponsible, it is self-deceptive and cowardly to ignore the possibility. And having processed that possibility, to be willing to stand for the eventual results of it. God forbid it come, but God forbid we shirk that challenge should it be laid at our laps. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else is on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that maw and force feed you a turgid, swollen chunk of truth cock. Choke on it! Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time for this Sunday sermon. It was heavy, man, and we are doing a deep dive, boys and girls. Right now, I'm getting ready to do the roll call, get everybody on board. Let's see where the fire is today, fellas. Everybody in for the drum roll. Coming hard, charging out of the starting gate, as we always do, the bumper music, Red Desert, a gut-stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert, and the name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week, I get a little bit older every week. You guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. I got a feeling this might be one of those weeks, but I'm going to let you decide, man. I'm going to jump on over here and see which one of the usual suspects have already joined us early. Of course, we got Brother Roman from opiumtales.com, and I'm sure his lovely wife, Carrie, is waiting somewhere in the wings. The original sinner sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Good to see you, sweetheart. OG, Reverend Ranger and Prophet of Doom, Mr. Dennis Weimer, the man single-handedly responsible for my first exposure to the Pacific Northwest. You changed my life, brother, in more ways than you can count. And by the way, that birthday message that you left for me, brother, I literally, you can ask Miss Charlie, I was in tears, bro. That was magnificent. I freaking love you, man. Thank you so much for that. God bless you. Let's see who else is on board. Brother Bill Wade. Thank you, sir. I caught your review on the Substack, and I'm glad that it had the desired effect, brother. That talk that we had at the draft house that night, man, still resonates in my heart and my soul, and I keep you in my prayers, brother. You were there the moment I came home, brother. That was you with your arms wrapped around me the moment I came home, and I will never forget that as long as I live. God bless you, Bill Wade, and thank you for being here, man. Brother Joel Allen Jackson from the Midwest. Do you live by the river, the Ohio River, sir? Yeah, I had to give a little nod to Apocalypse Now, man. Colonel Kurtz and Captain Willard. Good to see you on board, brother. The lovely Miss Charlie. Glad you made it, sweetheart. Mwah. Don't know how you're gonna like the rabbit hole, but I hope you dug the opener. It was heavy. And by the way, guys, don't let that opener and my preconceived notion shape your view on either the topic or the film. We're gonna get into that, man. We are gonna get into all of that as it comes along. But brother, see that film. I beseech you. I implore you. You got to see that flick, man. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. I haven't been hit that hard by a film in a long time. Deacon Mark on the porch with the lovely Mrs. Mwah. Happy to have you both on board. God bless you, folks. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry about being late, honey. Punctuality is something I got to live up to. You guys just show up whenever you can, and I'm totally okay with that. Hell of a movie. Left the theater stunned. So well done. The Mighty Mighty Stone, who is still processing lessons from Fear Inoculum, I feel sure. But yeah, was heavy, was it not? I'm telling you, man, I don't lay out compliments like that for films. I am quite the cinephile, and I thought a lot about Saul, man. Saul and I were like, like this on movies. We butted heads, but we were like an ambiguously gay mixed martial arts Siskel and Ebert. Okay, that sounds weird. Anyway, he was my film watching brother, man. He was my film watching buddy, and we have a high bar. That one surpassed it in every way. Speaking of people surpassing expectations, even when the bars are set high, brother Doug Turtle, good to see you on board, man. Thank you ever so much for everything, man. For the support, for being here. It's fantastic, bro. Just to have you as part of my life, as part of my brotherhood. I love you, man. God bless you. Let me see who else we got. Brother Phil Lewis watching from Tyler, not too far away from some of the other participants. Brother Shan, yes, the circle is complete. Good to see you, man. Shan, if you get a chance, see Civil War, bro. It is not anything like what you expect, and it is going to exceed every expectation that you have. Oh, man, what an intense film. We're going to be doing a deep dive. We're going to get into all that. Brother Tommy, glad you made it, man. High flying brother right there. I need to get that fixed. Like right when I get everything fixed, I'm ready to get my knees in the breeze again, get my A license back. I screw up my shoulder. I got to rehab this, but we are going to get our asses out of a plane. We're going to do it. What is this? Ask how Saturn's rings are. No, nobody asked me that. That's what I got greeted with this morning. And Charlie heading him off at the pass. Oh my goodness, man. I got a live crowd tonight, man. Everybody's here. And now I'm being censored. And on Bart's show, I would not censor, sir. I would do no such thing. I am merely encouraging other paths of correspondence. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Saturn's right. You know what? I'm actually gonna. You know what? I'm gonna humor your ass. I'm gonna humor your ass. I'm gonna do it. Step away. Just say I'm gonna step away from a challenge, boy. Watch me. All right. Guys, I'm in a really, really outstanding mood leading into the program tonight, man. I really am. The rehab exercises are going pretty well for the shoulder. I'll spare you the long, ugly, sordid details about my unpleasant experience at the ortho and my really pleasant experience at the physical therapist, man. That was, I'm getting some results, and there's a good chance that I'll be able to get out of this without having to get scoped or cut on. And I'm kind of hoping for that, honestly. But if it comes, hey, look, man, if it comes to that, it comes to that. I'm not terribly worried about it. I'm already carrying replacement parts around. So if they wind up having to scope it right now, if he goes there, it will be a 5-hour shindig. No, it won't. No, it won't. I promise you, hon. I promise you. 15 viewers, but only 5 likes. Come on, peeps. Likes boost the algorithm. Yes. Algorithm, that's one of my 3 college words. But Roman is right, guys. A like or a share expands the reach of the program, right? just hit the like button. Just roll over and just click it. Click, no matter what platform you're on. If you're on, particularly on YouTube, it just kicks it up the algorithm. It gives it a little bit better distribution. It gives a little remote hope that maybe some grazer out there is going to accidentally trip over it in their news feed, and maybe we get another convert. Is the likelihood there? We could discuss that, but yeah, no, definitely, man. If you guys hit the like button, also. When it comes to the Substack, some of you guys out there have been sharing the Substack, and I certainly appreciate it. If anything that I do, anything, whether it's a post or a Substack or this video or a live feed or, the sermon, whatever, speaks to you at all, share it, even if it's just one person. I had a post from last week that my buddy Brian Miller shared to his fan page, and like 30 some odd people picked it up, and they all shared it. And it had some pretty good reach. It was like over 100, just within a couple of days of him reposting that and sharing it. It actually helps. It takes like 2 seconds. Just lean over and click the damn thing. Brother Chris. Oh man, Chris, just so you know, I have fallen down the rabbit hole of center axis relock, and I have fished 2 airsoft pistols out. One I just acquired, and one I had completely forgotten about. I had an old airsoft 1911 that I picked up sometime around 2012, 2013. And I found that in the bunker. Here's what I love about cleaning out the bunker, like the actual bunker level. We're here on the command center level right now. It's second level down. When I actually clean out the bunker, it is like Christmas almost every time. Like, I will find something that I completely forgot about. And sometimes it's big. I lifted a box one time, and I was like, what is in this, lead? And it turned out it was 1,000 rounds of AK-47 ammo that I had just completely spaced on. I don't even know when I bought it. And it was actually jacketed soft point, which is next to impossible to get anymore, period, even at the outrageous prices that they're charging for it. Hopping on late. Hey, don't even worry about it, hon. Like I said, punctuality is for the guy that's doing the show. You guys show whenever you want. No, man. No, I'm not going to water it down. Here's the thing. Ryan, okay, you guys know this, and we're going to do this before we jump into the rabbit hole. Ryan keeps me honest, okay? Ryan is not a man of faith, but he is also not stupid by a damn sight. Here's the thing. He has probably done more reading on y'all's scripture, on our scripture, on their scripture, on everybody's damn scripture and history than most of the people that walk out wearing it on their shield, right? He just doesn't happen to see it the same way that I do, but he likes to point out little inconsistencies. And not just little inconsistencies, but sometimes very big inconsistencies and straight up silliness. In the 19th century, there was an anonymous and uncredited allegation that a Vatican librarian had written a treatise, and of course we can't verify it and we can't read it because it's based on an anonymous tip. Is what modern media would call it, that the foreskin of Christ, stay with me now. I know everybody right now is like, dude, what the hell? You stay with me, right? That the foreskin of Christ ascended, right? Ascended with him as he left for the afterlife and became Saturn's rings. Okay? Right. This happened. Here's the thing. If we're going to walk it, we got to own the dumb shit too. Sorry, fellas, but there it is. If we try to pick and choose, yes, if you would like, you go right ahead and do that over there in the comments. We got to own the dumb shit. Sorry. If we're going to carry that on our shield, we got to be able to look at stuff and just go, wow. Yep, can't excuse that, right? All of the Catholic priests playing little Lord Fauntleroys, okay? We can't excuse that. And if we minimize it or try to push it under the rug, as the Catholic Church did, guess what it does for those of us who are believers who are out there trying to spread the faith? It discredits us. It discredits our belief. It discredits our faiths collectively, our faith collectively, and our faiths individually. I'm all tongue tied now because I'm so flustered. This is what Ryan woke me up with this morning, by the way. That was waiting for me in my inbox when I woke up. And he's been around me enough to know don't jack with me until I've had my coffee. But yes, week 2 hey, glad you made it, Brett. And you showed up at the right time. George, glad you made it. Upper Peninsula, brother. Dude, when you look at the map, we'll get into it later, man. Just hang tight. I'm in the middle of a rant right here. We got to own the dumb shit, okay? The church, Charlemagne himself, at one point, Charlemagne handed what was allegedly the foreskin of the Messiah off to the Pope as he was being appointed to pontiff, okay? Can I rule out that it absolutely was the foreskin of baby Jesus? Can I rule that out? No, I can't. Is the likelihood there? Probably freaking not, considering that there were 14 of them that were circulating at one point or another, okay? This doesn't diminish my faith. This doesn't diminish my walk with the carpenter. This doesn't diminish my devotion to the boss man. But if we are going to go out there with that on our shield, you would better know that some of these things exist, and you would better be ready to face up and address it when someone calls you out on it. Okay? Everybody with me? Everybody who is a friend of faith, you guys tracking on this? Because people are going to... Now, here's the thing. Ryan did not throw this out to trip me up. Okay? We have open and long conversations about the nature of faith and Christ and God and all of that. We have a long conversation. He didn't throw this out to trip me up. He threw it out with me before I'd had my coffee, but he didn't throw this out to trip me up, okay? When you see him throw stuff like this at me, he is doing it to keep me honest. How am I going to react? Am I going to run from it? Or am I going to address it head on and just go, yeah, we screwed up? Because that's the only way to address things like that, okay? Some stuff you can carry on rational spiritual arguments for. Some stuff you can draw distinctions between doctrine and practice. Some things you just got to look and go, yeah, dude, we fucked up. Sorry, but there it is. Yeah, that's idiocy. Example, flat earth. Because according to the scripture, the earth is a flat disk and there's firmament above and we have never been to space. Do any of my friends out there, including friends of faith, believe that? If you do, on the strength of the scripture, I will not take that away from you. I am saying I don't believe it. Okay, fair enough. Not to keep you honest, you are the only person of faith I know that will have a 100% honest conversation. And there you go. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. While I'm here, one of the bullet points that I wanted to get into, and this isn't even on the level of, Saturn's rings and foreskins here. This is on an unusual thought and an unusual connection between the Carpenter and Eddie Van Halen. Now, for the guitar nerds, you're saying, well, that's easy enough. Eddie Van Halen is God. That's not where we're going with this. Okay, guys, I need you to stay with me and track. One of the most common pushbacks that I get, and again, when they give you the pushback and you know that what they are speaking is the truth, if you're carrying that cross on your shield, you got to own it. People have done, haven't they, horrible things in the name of the Carpenter. People have done horrible things in the name of one scripture or another, and that's not relegated to Christianity or Catholicism or Judaism or Islam. People have done horrible things in the name of that, right? The Psalm says the world is round. You see, and again, here's the nature of the discussion. We get tracked at it, but Deacon Mark, I have legitimately had a friend of faith call me out on my faith and say that I was a false prophet and demeaning to the Carpenter because I didn't believe his flat earth BS. This is how silly it gets. But what I'm saying is this: when people throw out, you got to be able to address it, and you got to be able to address it directly. And sometimes the answer is, yeah, there's no excuse for that. That was dumb, right? That was just dumb. Um, Obviously, if there are 14 alleged foreskins of Christ floating around, not all of them could be true. If any of them are true, this is obviously something we got to, okay? You got to be able to confront that stuff. That is part of that. It should not reflect on your faith. I don't walk with the building. I walk with the carpenter that built the son of a bitch. You guys feel me? You guys feel me? So, that's, yeah, he and I have been clashing, but yeah, and it does get old, Dennis. It totally does. This is why I muted him, bro. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Christ and Eddie Van Halen. People call out and people judge the church by what people who claim to represent the church do. Do they not? Right? And I was in a discussion, and again, this one I'm just throwing it out, and I realize it's on loose and shaky ground, which is why we're not going to do a long discussion on it. But the thing that I throw out to people, and what I've thrown out for a long time, I mean, even before my return to the faith, is when people judge the faith by the actions of individuals, my response is always, I have heard 100 guitarists butcher Eruption. Absolutely butcher it. Screw up the tapping, do triplets when it's supposed to be quadruplets. They're off scale, they're out of key, their guitar's out of tune, they don't have the whammy or whatever. I've heard 100 guitarists butcher Eruption. In every major music retailer, musician's friend or whatever store that I've ever walked into, I've heard 100 guitarists butcher Eruption. Never once did I blame Eddie Van Halen for their butchery. You feel me? Right? Now, Josh Vargas this week. And I love Josh. I do. He's quite the human being. Not a man of faith. In a band with someone who is a devout man of faith, and oh my goodness, the creative juices are flowing. Interesting stuff. Anyway, Josh fired back with, yeah, but I've seen, like I'm a lot more convinced of the existence of Eddie Van Halen. Fair enough retort. My retort to that retort is, have you ever met the man? Have you ever met him face to face? Obviously, that's impossible. Now, Dennis Weimer has met the man face to face, right? Dennis can tell me, yes, Eddie Van Halen absolutely exists. But how many other people on this feed besides Dennis actually met and shook hands with Eddie Van Halen? Or at least was close enough proximity to see him work his magic? How many people had an actual encounter with Eddie Van Halen while he was alive? Right? Nobody here but Dennis. Got it. Right. So, nobody walking the earth today had an actual encounter with Christ. We are going on the record. We are going on the record of other people, right? We are going on the record of other people that saw him live, that heard his works recorded, whatever, right? And I remember you meeting Jason Becker. I remember you took a lesson from him, and I still have that tablature, by the way, Roman. I still have that tab. I'll never play again, but I still have the tab. But here's the point. We are going on what other people say, okay? Ultimately, we're going on what other people say. Is it a bad analogy? Yes. Is it shaky? Yes. But for the sake of discussion, I thought I would throw that out, okay? Larger point being, I'm not blaming another guitarist butchering Eruption on Eddie Van Halen, right? I'm not blaming people floating 14 Jesus foreskins. I'm not blaming that on the boss man or the carpenter, right? I'm blaming that on men because they're fallible, right? But more to the point, if we're going to say, hey, man, yeah, but I'm pretty convinced that Eddie Van Halen exists. Did you meet him? No. So you're essentially taking it on faith, right? Are you not? Yes, there's a lot more evidence. Yes, there's historical record. Yes, we have recordings. Yes, we have videos of live sets, all these other things. But you know what? 2,000 years from now, 2,000 years from now, 2,000 years from now, you're going to be as out of control, as loose, making a case for Eddie Van Halen as you are for Christ right now. So essentially, it is the same thing. We're taking it on faith. Is it a loose analogy? Yes, it is. Can you beat it to shit? Yes, you can. I just thought I'd throw that out because it was an interesting conversation we had. Couple of quick, we have, right, got the Shroud of Turin. We've got historical accounts from the Romans. We got Shroud of Turin. We got historical accounts from the Romans. We've got every other, but again, that isn't, I didn't want to get off on that. Brian, damn it. Okay, that's all the distractions you get this week, son. That's it. I'm gonna mute you in the comments. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, couple of sponsor shout outs real quick. Of course, Roman and his lovely wife Carrie and Allie and Roxy and a bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Beautiful watercolors of beautiful naked women and testosterone driven commentary. It is a Reverend Bart trifecta. You got to get over and check him out. Opiumtales.com and check out his book, authored by his nom de plume. Clem's not here, so I shouldn't be speaking French. Roman Riva on Amazon, From Dork to Pimp Daddy, tells his whole journey of being just going from Joe Schlub to having beautiful women pay him for the privilege of painting them naked. Painting pictures of them naked. Maybe he paints on them when they are naked. I don't know. That's between him and Carrie and Roxy and Allie. And, and it's cool. If you want to send me some snapshots, Roman, hey, I'm all about it. But point being, check out the book. Check out opiumtales.com. Roman Riva, From Dork to Pimp Daddy, available on Amazon. Check it out. Also, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, Pitmaster Dusty, over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue. They were out doing a catering gig this weekend, and I could not make it out because they were out there in Spangle, and I could not make it out. But I will be seeing him again, and I still have stuff in the freezer from the birthday, so I can thaw that out and have a badass rack of ribs, and I'm all about that. So that'll be cool. But yeah, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. The only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest, period. End of statement. Done. Okay. Having said that, let's get off into the program, Poison Squirrels. Get over here to my production screen again and go to banners. We are going to open, as we always do, with Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Tell me if you can hear the thunderous roar of applause here. Everybody hear it? Hear it? I always worry because sometimes it doesn't, sometimes the sound doesn't come through, and I'm like, I'm taking in the accolades from the cheering crowd, and you guys are just watching me wave my hands around because you can't hear the cheering. So anyway, I'm just glad we actually got the soundboard working. That's pretty refreshing. But anyway, we're going to open with Ryan's Rabbit Hole. That is, of course, our popular segment and has been since the first time we did it. And we threw it out the first time. It was really just kind of a goof, But one of the things that Ryan and I bonded over is that we are both repositories of useless information. Repositories. Important word selection. Repositories of useless information, and we are into conspiracy and esoterica and historical events, particularly like the hidden stuff that a whole lot of people don't really talk about, and that is what the Rabbit Hole's about. Every week we go off the beaten path a little bit. The purpose of the Rabbit Hole is to take you outside of your comfort zone, introduce you to an individual or an event or a phenomenon with which you might not have been previously familiar. You see how grammatically correct I was there? I'm good. Anyway, some weeks it dovetails with what the sermon is actually about, and some weeks it does not. This week, I think it does actually dovetail fairly well on a couple of different levels. And that would be because we are bringing up Dr. Pierre Kory, Pierre Kory, Pierrekory, Pierre Kory. I want you guys to look him up. Why is he important? I'll tell you why he is important. You guys may remember about 4 years ago that there was a little Oh, I don't know. They tried to convince us all that there was a mild respiratory bug going around with a 99.8% survival rate, and we were supposed to panic and shut down the entire economy. And like good little servants, we did. And that part is going to dovetail into another one of the bullet points we're dealing with later. But Pierre Corey, he was at the time considered one of the preeminent specialists with regard to treating said respiratory bugs or other more serious infections. At the time, we were told that there was no more serious infection than COVID 19. It was going to be the end of us all. That's what they sold us, and we bought it. Pierre Corey was. He was credentialed out the ass. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up a list of the man's credentials because I can't even like. Okay, um, New York School of Public Service, Master's in Public Administration, St. George's University in Grenada, graduating with a Doctor of Medicine, residency, fellowship training in critical care and pulmonary medicine, clinical rotations at the Cornell School of Medicine, first practiced in Madison, Wisconsin, became staff member at University of Wisconsin Health, Academic Medical Center, University of Wisconsin, was the medical director of the Trauma and Life Support Center at UW. I had a minor treatment at UW one time. I can't comment on that one reason or another because I think I'm still in collections. Anyway, he worked with virology. He worked with ultrasonography. He worked with emergency medicine. He worked with trauma. He worked with chronic disease. He was credentialed out the ass. And what happened? He broke from the orthodoxy. What were we told? Wash your hands, mask up, social distance, all these other things. Remdesivir is the only thing that you should be taking for it. If we decide to give you remdesivir, the main thing is we're going to get you in, we're going to put you on a respirator and make sure that you die. That wasn't what they told us, but that's ultimately what wound up happening, including to my best friend of 30 years. Not that I'm bitter. Pierre Corey lost everything. Everything. Why? Because he was one of the few sensible people that took a step back and said, what we need is early intervention and treatment. We need early intervention and treatment with these things that are proven to work with early intervention and treatment. You know the one I'm going for. Starts with an I. Come on, boys and girls. You know this one. Ivermectin. That's right. He was one of the few people at the forefront of that. He was one of the first people to look at the benefits of hydroxychloroquine, but he also took into account vitamin D, zinc, right? Ivermectin and a Z-Pack, that was Pierre Corey's work, right? All of that. He was the first guy to step out. There would be others. Some of the others you may have heard of. Pierre Corey you probably haven't heard of because he got buried early, because he was the first guy to put his dick in the wind and take that risk. Others would come later. Robert Malone, who you've heard me say I'm not particularly a fan of because he's got all the charisma of a softball. Robert McCulloch, Alex Berenson, not a physicist, but good analyst, put out some solid information. These are the people who would come later. But Pierre Corey was the first one to step up. Early intervention, early treatment, ivermectin, zinc, hydroxychloroquine, injectable vitamin C. Ooh, there's another one that we can't talk about. But I want you guys to do the deep dive on Pierre Corey. I want you guys to do the deep dive on who he was and what he lost for you. Because while the regime and while the priesthood, oh, the Church of Medicine, may she ever be hallowed, she is infallible, she makes no mistakes, she looks only for the public health as designated by the Hippocratic Oath, we must bow down at the temple of Western medicine. The priesthood, any voice against which is considered heresy, shredded this man. Because no one cares about you like they do. No one is concerned for your health like they are within the given parameters of their scripture. This treatment good, that treatment bad. This treatment saintly, that treatment the work of the devil. This doctor good, agreeing with the orthodoxy. Pierre Corey bad. not just an infidel. Remember, we've been over that before too, right, boys and girls? The difference between an infidel and an apostate. Any fundamentalist religion hates its infidels, but there is a special level of hatred for apostates, because as far as Father Pierre, he was one of us, and now he is turned from the church. Banish him! Burn him at the stake! Next best thing. They removed his credentials, and he wound up, the one thing that he still had left, his position at UW, he stepped away from because they simply would not follow the scientific process. Follow the science! I mean, except where it's leading us here. The priesthood must not be questioned. Western medicine is the all-enlightened and all-powerful. We are the only ones who may be considered. Anyone stepping outside our orthodox level of treatment must be punished. He was an apostate. He stood for you, for me, for everyone. In the face of losing his professional career, in the face of losing his credentials, in this face of, right, thank you, Greg. Nice to see you too, by the way. Hey, well, good to see you as well. Pierre Corey on Substack. Yes, thank you, Roman. And Roman headed me off at the pass because that's where I was headed. Yet another guy that you should be taking a look at on Substack. And while we're here, Pierre Corey is your rabbit hole. But while we're here, I'm going to throw a couple more out on Substack. And in fact, I'm going to puff my own pecker here for a second. That is mine. And I just wrote up another one. I just celebrated 27 years clean, but not necessarily sober. If you want the whole story, read that Substack. Bill, I saw your review. I'm glad that it moved you, and thank you for sharing it as well. But that is my Substack. You can find these other people at. Here's where was it? There you go. Pierre Corey on Substack. There you go. I want you to go and look at his work. Pierre Corey is one. Robert Malone. And you guys can do your own homework and look up the spelling and everything. Dr. Robert Malone, who, again, I'm not a big fan of, because if you're not charismatic, no matter what if you're not charismatic and you don't have communication skills, no matter what your credentials are, you wind up doing us a disservice because people just tune you out. Oh, yeah, that's that boring guy, and he's off on another rant about, COVID vaccines. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter McCullough, who was quite famously taken to task after his appearance and was banned from Twitter after his opinion on the Joe Rogan show. And Alex Berenson, who has now written 2 books on the subject. All of these people are on Substack. You should be reading them. Why? Even if it's just their free subscription where you get the occasional post, you should be reading them. Why? Because they are the apostates. They are the infidels. They are the ones who were on the forefront and who have been proven right. They lost everything for you to try to give you legitimate information. And why were they punished? For, what's the M word, boys and girls? Misinformation. This is the salient point. This is the cautionary tale. When you let people say, and they will always come at you with the best of intentions because their hearts are totally in the right place, we are the church of medicine and we only want what is best for the population and public health. They will always come at you with pure intentions. They will always say that their hearts are in the right place. Nothing could be further from the truth. And when you give them the ability to shut down voices that are in opposition, we get what we have now. Keep in mind, people, and don't ever forget this. Don't ever lose sight of this. For 3 years, these people fueled, since we're going to be getting into civil war and a polarized nation, these people fueled a narrative that had a substantial portion of the United States public ready to see their countrymen incarcerated, locked down, their children taken from them for having the audacity to go, I think I want to do a little more reading. beyond with the public health and the concern of the fucking virology. Okay, all of that, put it to the side. Slap it in a box and throw it over your shoulder just for a second. What did it come down to? We say this is the protocol. Oh, well, these other people who are just as credentialed and just as reliable and, wait for it, don't have a financial vested interest in a vaccine are saying something completely different. They wanted you locked away. They wanted you incarcerated. They wanted to take your children because you had the audacity to listen to someone who was an apostate of the priesthood of the Church of Medicine. You will be burned at the stake as an infidel. My people here, my friends, my brothers in particular, properly see that as the terrifying phenomenon that it was. AZT and Fauci should have been taken more seriously. Right. And again, there's another one. While we're here and we're doing the deep dive, look up AZT. When I saw my gay and lesbian friends getting behind Fauci, knowing what I know about his history with AZT, I had no choice. I had to cut him loose. I had to cut him loose. They were literally too dumb to live. And if they are smart enough to live, they're certainly not smart enough to be part of my circle. I do not engage. You've got to cut yourself away from these people. You have to. For the sake of your own sanity and for the sake of having actual intellectual discourse, you just have to cut these people loose. There is no persuading them because, as I was saying, all you people here, everybody here, including my wife, and Charlie and I have disagreed about a number of things over the course of this pandemic. But all the people here know how terrifying it is that people were looking at mandating injections of experimental drugs. Everybody here knows how terrifying it was that such an abhorrently large chunk of the population wanted us locked away and wanted our children taken away for merely having the temerity, the audacity, the sheer unmitigated gall to disagree with their findings. Dissent would not be allowed. That's terrifying. And the people who were pushing that now, they want to just walk around like it never happened. Oh, yeah, well, we got it wrong. I mean, forgive and forget. Fuck yourself. Sorry. Guys, I'm really getting it under control. I used to use the F-bomb as punctuation. I'm really, really trying to rein it in. And I think I'm doing pretty good. But fuck these people. I'm sorry. You don't get to advocate for people I love to be incarcerated for disagreeing with you and then several years later just go, well, nobody really knew. Sorry. Bygones. All the Oxenfree. Yeah, ready to tell them the COVID shot has killed more than... Yes, and Pierre Corey goes into that as well. Dr. Pierre Corey, that is your rabbit hole. While you were there, Alex Berenson, Robert Malone, Peter McCulloch, do a deep dive. AZT, while you're there, do a deep dive. Because these people were apostates to the high priests of medicine, and they did it for you, for legitimate devotion to the oath that they took, that Hippocratic oath, first, do no harm. They could not be bought, and they lost everything. The least you could do is give them $1 a month on Substack to read the information that could have saved us a hell of a lot of heartache. Dr. Pierre Corey, that is your rabbit hole for the week. Breathe, Bart, breathe. I don't know if Clem's out there, but if he is, breathe, Bart, breathe, because you could just, you see the tension coming up in my chest. It is still a sore spot with me, man. It is still a sore spot. Not as bad as the shoulder, but still a sore spot. When people tell you who they are, believe them. When people show you who they are, definitely believe them. Hey, it'd be a good idea to put your mask on. Hey, I really wish you guys would put your mask on. I'm going to wear a mask. I really wish you guys would wear your mask is one level of stupid. Actually, you know what? You know what? No. Because most people are fairly uninformed. The overwhelming majority of people. Yeah. Ryan, this is why I love you, bro. This is why I love you. Bottoms up, Socrates. I love it. Most people are abhorrently ignorant. They really are. So, hey, man, they said we should wear a mask. I'm going to wear a mask. There's no real indication that it survives on surfaces, but I'm going to go ahead and wear my gloves and observe all the protocols and stuff. I really wish you guys would do it too. Or even, I don't feel comfortable around you guys because you're not wearing masks, man. Maybe you could hang out another time after we get this resolved. That's understandable levels of stuff. But when someone in the power structure says, or even suggests, and when I say within the power structure, I mean the media, the propaganda wing as well. When you have people who are considered authorities on the subject saying, we're running out of patience, quote unquote, these people need to be forced to take this vaccine or eliminated from function within society, and your reaction is anything but a double barrel middle finger. Thank you, Dan Bongino. We're done. We're done. Man, you can't just cut people loose and go, oh, really? I cut my birth mother loose behind it, son. Ask me if I'm committed. Dude, that's harsh. Yeah. Dude, that's necessary. I will not have my mental environment polluted by tyrants in waiting. Little Mighty Mouse Marxists. Hashtag. I will not have it. You candle pissers, you Mighty Mouse Marxists, all of you. I'm done. I'm done. Time for half measures is over, bro. Time for half measures is over. Because these are the people that are going to push it. Getting into civil war, which we will in a minute. These are the people who are going to push us in that direction. Not from the right or from the left. Because that, in the final analysis, isn't the war. The war is authoritarian versus people who just want liberty and to be left alone. It happens that the left is in control of the levers of power right now. And the extreme left and the extreme right are just as despicable. But only one has the hand on the power lever right now. But it's not about that. Right versus left, we don't like you because you disagree with us. You don't like us. Okay, we can have the disagreement. But using authoritarianism to shut down dissenting opinion is what is going to push us into the inevitable. Pierre Corey, AZT, Peter McCulloch, Robert Malone, big rabbit hole. Jump in and reflect. Next bullet point. No, you know what? We're gonna bypass that one. We're gonna bypass that one for right now. How about the ant and the lessons that we can learn from the ant? Because this dovetails in fact, this is going to bridge the gap really, really nicely between the Pierre Corey rabbit hole and all of the other things. Proverbs chapter 6. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Verse 6. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest. What can we learn from this as an individual, and what can we learn from this as a culture, right? Obviously, and we will get into this momentarily, there is an overseer. It's not the king ant handing down orders. It's a pheromone thing that can be pulled out of control. But what can we learn from the ant? What does it say in Proverbs? Provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest, leading directly to the old fable about the ant and the grasshopper. You guys remember that? It's Aesop. Okay? Aesop's free and easy, not like the Grimm brothers, okay? I saw the coolest meme the other day. It said, my life is a fairy tale, a German one. If you guys are familiar with the Grimm brothers and the real Grimm brothers, not the Disneyfied version. Want to know about the Aesop fable about the ant and the grasshopper? Hmm? Ants are out front. They're on their mound. They're drying their grain. Grasshopper just fiddling away. What does he do? I didn't have time to store up any food. I was making music. I was out here being festive. Before I knew it, I turned around. The summer was over with. I'm going to read you the actual Aesop version because you guys know the synopsis, right? That the grasshopper fiddles all summer and it gets away from, meanwhile, the ants harvesting grain and drying up stuff and putting it away. And then the winter comes. And then the winter comes and the grasshopper has nothing. Winter comes and the grasshopper has nothing. And the ants, they're living off the product of their own hard work. They don't feed the grasshopper freezes to death. I'm gonna read the actual Aesop because it's a little more profound than that in the way that it's phrased. You ready for this? One bright day in late autumn, a family of ants were bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain that they had stored up during the summer, when a starving grasshopper, and keep in mind, grasshopper's already starving when he comes to them. They didn't even give you the happy music he was making during the summer. When a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and humbly begged them for a bite to eat. What? Cried the ants in surprise. Haven't you stored anything away for the winter? What in the world were you doing all last summer? I didn't have time to store up any food, whined the grasshopper. I was so busy making music. Look at that. Oh, I was busy making music. I was keeping you guys in there. Oh, yeah. I was so busy making music that before I knew it, the summer was gone. The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. And here's the Aesop version that's different from the overview version. The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. Making music, were you? They cried. Very well. Now dance. And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. There's a time for work and a time for play. I've heard that story since I was a kid. Right? I mean, I've heard the story, and as a prepper, it's become part of my worldview, my creed, man. But I'd never actually read the actual Aesop version until I was doing show prep today, and I was and I just wanted it. I wanted it there as a point of reference, but I actually read it, man. And that last line, "Making music, were you? Very well. Now dance." And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. No sympathy. Consider her ways and be wise, thou sluggard. It's a distinction between types of people. And the types of people that are here, without exception, unless my hater, one of my two haters is watching right now, which, by the way, Joshua Ryan Smith and Aaron Ton, if either of you are watching, vaya con Dios, brother, I wish you the best. I genuinely wish you the best. I have no hatred in my heart for you, but I see you. If you're waiting around for me to fall again, I hope you packed a lunch. Again, no time for hostility. Not even about people like that. All the people that are here, my friends, people who haven't met me that aren't generally considered friends, but are my fans, followers, friends, fans, followers, the 3Fs, the other 3Fs. You guys are generally on the same page with that. You know that there is a time for work. You know that there is a time for play. And having the higher intellectual constructs vis-a-vis actions, consequences over temporal disparities. Temporal disparities, that's two of my three college words. I'm all out. You understand Not only that there is a time for work and a time for play, but what you do today might affect whether you live or die a year from now, 6 months from now, when the trouble comes, when the, what are we going into later? When the civil war, God forbid, descends upon you. If you have taken no preparatory measures, I know in my heart of hearts that while my brothers in faith do believe in good Christian charity, we do understand that charity begins at home. And when the grasshoppers come knocking, oh, you were making music? Very well then. Dance. They will find no comfort. And whatever comfort they do find is going to be strictly out of a spirit of Christian charity, not obligation. And it will go no further than when it edges up on bringing harm or even inconvenience to people that I love. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest. That is Proverbs chapter 6, verses 5 through 7. Scriptural lesson, the ant, the Aesop lesson of the ant and the grasshopper, but not all is well on planet Ant. And this touches on the rabbit hole. Not just Pierre Corey, but the entire phenomenon that we talked about with regard to the so-called pandemic, right? Woods Lake, Henry, yes, damn it, Ryan, how come you don't hit me with this stuff before show prep? Because I totally could have folded that in. I love you, man. You know that. Parable of the lamp oil. Yes. Grim uncensored shiznit. Yes, it is. We're already, Greg. Yes, we're already there. People have already picked their sides. We're just waiting for the first shot. Yeah, I mean, to a greater or lesser degree. We're gonna get into that a little bit deeper once I actually touch on the film, because we're not even there yet. Here's where all is not necessarily well with Planet Ant. Sarah Medeiros, who you guys, if you follow me on Facebook, you know that she's on my personal page and my fan page, doesn't really chime in that much on my fan page. She sent me something about the death spiral, about the ant death spiral. You guys have seen the memes. Oh, by the way, just for the record, that is, damn it, and I didn't even pull that up. That is Pierre Corey. That is Dr. Pierre Corey. So when you're doing that, you're like, hey, man, have I got the right guy? If he looks like that, you got the right guy. That is Pierre Corey, and that's your rabbit hole. The meme that she sent me, and you guys have seen this before, right? Like the cute little YouTube videos where it's got like some Slayer in the background, ultra sacrifice, curse of the damned, and the ants are just, it looks like a circle pit, man. You guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes they even have the speaker in the middle, right? Somebody will sit down like a Bluetooth speaker and they're going around. It's not about the music. It's not about the vibration. And it is reflective of one shortcoming, that for the ant and their hive mind and their work ethic, you can follow the ant on some examples, the scriptural examples, the Aesop examples, but on the legitimate scientific examples, you might want to hesitate and do a little bit of a double take. Because here's the thing with ants. When they are engaging in feeding behavior or defense of the nest, defending the hill, how do they communicate? They communicate through pheromones, right? I mean, we all communicate through pheromones to a greater or lesser degree. We don't need to draw the comparisons. Everybody knows. But that is how they keep the scent trail of how to get back and forth to the thing that they're feeding. They're dismantling the corpse of another bug and they're bringing food back to the nest, and they follow the scent trail. And every now and then an ant will get off the path and he will start leaving a circular scent trail of those pheromones, and sooner or later other ants pick up on it, and they start laying down their own pheromones along that same trail, and they continue and they continue. And none of the ants, because they've assumed hive-minded, because they aren't necessarily that intelligent even within the insect kingdom, they are following instinct, they are following pheromone signatures, and none of them would stop to think, hey, wait a minute, how come we're all going around in circles? They are acting instinctively in the same way that herd animals and grazers act instinctively. And once they get going in that circle, they will continue to go around in circle. The thing that they are coming to feed on can be right in the middle of the circle, and they will not deviate from that circle to go get the food and get everything back on track. They continue, and it picks up steam, and more and more ants continue to repeat the behavior. But ultimately, more and more people, you see where I'm going with this. They continue to repeat the behavior. And even though humans have allegedly and ostensibly the capacity for critical thought, nobody stops. Everybody's going this direction. I mean, it should be obvious to everybody else that something is wrong here, but I don't want to be the guy that steps out of the damn circle, because then the rest of the ants won't like me, or my ant employer might not let me keep my job. I'm just going to continue to go around in a circle. Lesson worth learning, right? From the humble ant. And a little scripture lesson from the humble ant. And a fable from Aesop. The humble ant and conditioning for mass suicide. The humble ant and conditioning for groupthink. The humble ant and mob behavior. And they're doing that based on pheromones that they are secreting themselves. Imagine, since we're on planet analogy, imagine that a scientist could formulate a pheromone that was even more dialed in to that behavior, that was even more dialed into those receptor sites in that little ant brain. And you don't even have to wait for the ants to create it. You create your own trail, and the ants are bound to follow. They cannot snap themselves out of it. They literally can't help themselves. We got to witness that behavior in higher primates for years. And now we're going to get to witness it again. I'm not going to belabor this particular point. Because everybody, thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you, Brother Norman. Sounds a lot like, yep, the dancing death and the friends from Ergo. Right. And it could just as easily be done to humans like that. But why? Why do you need a chemical to make humans do it when you can turn them against themselves? And when you talk about, since Norman brought up the mark of the beast, we have belabored that on this program. We have beaten it to death. Devil don't make you do nothing. Scratch don't pull the strings. Scratch doesn't have his hand up your ass like a puppet, unless it's that kind of party, different thing. He gets you thinking. Just plants a seed, and you, not you, but the mob or the herd or whatever. No, you're Norman now, and you're Norman now. Sorry, you signed on with Norman. You're freaking Norman now. Deal with it. That seed gets planted, and that seed got planted by forces that, I mean, if we look at it now, straight up evil. You can't assign that to ignorance, because at some point it became evident that what they were pushing was untrue. At some point it became evident that what they were pushing was destructive. Some would say that point was before the whole thing got started, that was the mission behind it in the first place. Some would say. but they planted the seed, and people did what people do. And let's examine that mob for a minute. Why was it so easy to get them to do these things? For the same reason every authoritarian regime, and that's where we're headed with this as we get into the Civil War analogy, every authoritarian regime knows that darkness exists, and particularly in weak people. Yep. If we're going to go scriptural, yes. You let them have some semblance of power and you convince them that it is for the greater good, they will commit atrocities, man. Everybody thinks they're going to be the guy that resists. No way, man. If I'd have lived in Nazi Germany, man, I'd have been hiding Jews out, bro, and I'd have been like fighting with the French resistance. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You guys would be covert for this. You guys would be covert for the SS, the Gestapo. You'd be an informant. Oh, dude, I'd never do that. Really? You called 911 because your neighbors weren't social distancing. Don't tell me what you would or wouldn't have done. You had better learn. You had better become a devout student. Not just a propaganda. One of the I spend a lot of time on this program on propaganda. Because propaganda is the tool with which our minds get swung. Everybody here, sharper than most. Sharper than most. That's not to puff everybody's pecker just for being here. I'm saying most of the guys that follow this program, and especially the ones that I know in real life, sharper than most. You can see the propaganda. You can push back. Most people can't. Most people think themselves morally pure, and it is their misperception of moral purity that can make them vulnerable to be led into committing atrocities. Read Ordinary Men, a book that Jordan Peterson's always recommending about that Polish police brigade and what happened in just a few short years. Look at, if you would have asked everybody at the beginning of Mao's Great Leap Forward, shortly before that, they were with the nationalist forces in Chiang Kai-shek. And if you would have told them that inside of 10 years, you're going to be eating your neighbors and turning dissidents in to have them executed or pulled up for a struggle session, no way, man. No, not me, dude. No, I'm totally down for liberty, bro. I'm going to resist. Said every dab-hitting weed addict on the planet. Yeah, bro, I'm down, man. That's why I'm staying in the shadows, bro. I'm off the radar. Chicken shit. Coward. Another lesson from the ant. You catch yourself being led around in a trail that doesn't make sense, guess what? You are not obligated by pheromones, nor are you obligated by a lack of intelligence. Hopefully. You can take a step back and concentrate on the lessons that we should be learning from the ants. The first two, the biblical lesson and the Aesop's fable lesson. Take those lessons as words to live by, and take that death spiral as a cautionary tale. Yeah, it's real funny to look at the memes. I'm planting a seed right now. I'm kind of using a propaganda technique right now on the sly, because I keep coming back to that meme with the speaker and the circle pit and the ants dancing around it. I'm planting a seed right now. Every time you see that meme, every time you see one of those where, it's, angel of death, and then the ants are dancing around the circle pit, I want you to think about the fact that every ant in that circle is going to keep dancing until they are dead. It's a funny meme, but I don't want you associating that with funny anymore. I want you guys seeing that death spiral and recognizing it for what it is. These aren't ants dancing around a Bluetooth speaker. These are my neighbors dancing around my body being burned at the stake. These are my neighbors surrounding my house and pointing so the Stasi know where to go and get the dissident, the domestic extremist. Every time you see those ants in a death spiral, I want you to remind yourself that that is a death spiral, that these ants are acting on purely instinctive, purely pheromone driven behavior, and they are not very different from the people that live down the street from you. Think accordingly. Be more like the ants in the Proverbs. Be more like the ants in the Aesop fable. Because that's what you're storing your grain against. Those first two lessons, you're following those because you know that the third is coming. You guys tracking with me on this? Bit of a stretch, but hang with me. That's why you're harvesting. That's why you're drying the grain and putting it away. That's why you're taking the time to stockpile ammo, learn the people who you can really trust, spending time in the scriptures, building your faith, time under the iron, building physical strength. Those ants from Proverbs, those ants from Aesop, you're doing that because you know how easy it is for the ants dancing around that Bluetooth speaker to get swayed into tracking you down. You know that the fight is coming. And maybe you're secular, dude. Maybe you don't see any spiritual element to any of this. But try to tell me that there's not a fight coming. You might not see it as good versus evil. You might not see it as authoritarian versus libertarian, small L, libertarian. You might not see it like that at all. But try to look at the world around you right now and deny to my face with a straight face that there's a fight coming. I dare you. Can't. Take the lessons from the ants. One more bullet point before we get off into civil war, and this is gonna be a nice little segue. What do we know about our nation's motto in Latin? E pluribus unum. E pluribus unum. Anybody tell me what that means? Can anybody tell me what e pluribus unum means? Out of many, one. Out of many, one. And this is part of the problem heading into this civil war mentality. Out of many, one. One what? One culture, yes? Oh, I knew you'd know, hon. Thank you, Mike. Yes. Out of many, one. One what? One nation? That's easy enough. But what really is one nation? What are we unified by? What are we unified by? We're unified by culture, are we not? You like that, Josh? I'm glad you're here, buddy. I'm glad you're here. That is Josh Vargas, by the way. I'm glad he showed up. That is the gentleman whose praises I've been singing for his Murderbelia collection and his film work. Dude, you guys should look him up online. Solid cat, man. I love you, Josh. Noir Tech, I'm late, but I'm here. Good. Glad you made it. Glad you made it. Out of many, one. One what? Nation? Too easy. What unites a nation? Culture. Diversity is our what? First word that pops into your head. Don't be afraid to be wrong, because you are, but diversity is our what? Diversity is our what? Strength, right? Dennis with the correct answer for the bonus round. Yes. Downfall. Diversity is our downfall. Weakness. Yep. See it all. Yeah, I'm definitely among the right crowd here. Okay, let me try it a different way. Yeah, I know. Get out of my head, Weimer. They say strength, but no. Okay, cool. Okay, how about the cultural answer? How about the one that we're required to say? How about the one that decorum and protocol requires that we say? Diversity is our strength, right? Diversity is our strength. In some ways, that could be true. Josh, Dean Coral killings, yes, is it made yet? Yes. Oh, really? Yeah. I love it. My wife, and you guys know, and I love her. She she's one of the old school good liberals. She was trying to text strength, but Siri disagreed and vetoed. Yes, and I like that you put it in quotations. Siri, oh, I love you, Siri. You'll never hear me say that again. Diversity is our strength. That is the cultural thing. Has anybody ever spent any time really thinking about that? Anybody? I know this is probably the wrong audience to throw this out in front of because I think we're probably all fairly much on the same page here. We've got critical thinkers that if you throw out a platitude, somebody's going to ask you why. Diversity is our strength. Why? Why is it our strength? Or better yet, how? How is that our strength? Nobody thinks about that. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Out of many, one. Yes, thinking can be painful. Um, Diversity breeds contempt. Okay, when you boil it down, it breeds contempt. And okay, again, I really don't even need to elaborate on this. We're not even going to do a deep dive because clearly everybody gets it. But for the sake of somebody out there who might be on the fence, right? Right, Mark? Deacon Mark, the intent 200 plus years ago, the motto and idea is far different than what's being pushed now. Absolutely. Because what is one diversity that is not allowed? Diversity of thought. But even leaving that aside for a minute, diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. Nobody thinks about it. Why? Because there is no empirical evidence and precious little anecdotal evidence to substantiate that. And when I say very little, I mean less than none. And yet we repeat it. Why? Why? We repeat it in the same way that we repeat every other platitude for two reasons. One, out of habit, and two, because we don't want to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the ants in that death spiral. Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. Diversity erodes confidence. Oh, no, kick them out of the circle. Diversity is our strength. You guys feel me? You tracking? Let me just throw some stuff out here for you. And again, I don't need to beat it to death. This happened this week. The Labour leader for the UK, the MP who is the opposition leader in Parliament, Keir Starmer. Labour is like every other leftist party. They wouldn't know a principled argument if it bit them in the ass, and all of their ethics and morals are purely situational, nothing more. He shifted gears again. Smash the gangs. This is the headline from Reuters. Smash the gangs. UK Labour leader sets out plans for illegal migration. Well, illegal migration is working out for the UK and Europe worse than it is here, if you can imagine that. Why? Because they have smaller landmass and they have more people already for that landmass. They've got less room, and they're dealing with numbers pretty much the same as we're seeing on our southern border, and they've got a lot less room. And what has the Labour Party up until now done? Oh, no hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Refugees are welcome here. All the buzzwords. Refugees. And why? Why are refugees welcome here? Because diversity is our strength. How's that working out for Britain right now? How's that working out for Britain right now with the massive demonstrations literally supporting Hamas? Not the Palestinians, not the downtrodden denizens of Gaza, Hamas. In Dearborn, Michigan this week, with Rashida Tlaib, who I like to refer to as the Rash, leading the demonstration. Chants in Arabic of "Death to America" broke out. Google it. When approached later, she refused to answer any questions. Why? I don't talk to Fox News. They use racist tropes, says the Rash, who was just leading a demonstration of Islamic radicals. Let's call them what they are, or just say that they were immigrants and refugees, no matter what they are, they were yelling death to America in Arabic. Tell me again. Tell me again why these guys and these guys are the existential threat to public safety and to democracy. The FBI is finally coming out and acknowledging that we have a problem with Islamic immigrants, Mexican immigrants, and Chinese immigrants. They are acknowledging that we have a problem, that we may have sleeper cells. This was on CNN, a mouthpiece for the regime. They're acknowledging it, and yet the biggest threat to our democracy is domestic right-wing extremists and white people. Yeah. Rashida Tlaib is an elected representative. She is a member of Congress. And we are allowing this to go on. How did that happen in that district in Dearborn, Michigan? How do we have similar things happen in Minneapolis with another member of the squad? You know the one. She's Somalian. Her entire constituency is Somalian. No hate, no fear. Refugees are welcome here. And what are we getting out of it? Why do we continue to let it go? Because diversity is our strength. Southern border, wide open. Rhetoric makes no allowance for a ballooning pronoun. They must be allowed to be here, as 100,000 come across. They are just looking for a better life, as 200,000 come across. They are just like us and will culturally assimilate, as 500,000 come across. That pronoun keeps ballooning, and rhetoric makes no allowance for that, but particularly when the demographic keeps shifting. As I said in the opener, China isn't known for just letting people go. Oh, you don't want to be here anymore? You want to go to America for a better life? Yeah, sure, man. Hey, vaya con Dios, or whatever that is in Mandarin. Do they just let people walk? No. But yet, in California and Arizona last month, there were days where there were more Chinese coming across the southern border than there were Mexicans. You can Google that too. Single military age men, as are just about all of the downtrodden families looking for a better life that are coming across that southern border. And we're worried about these guys as a threat to democracy. So you have to start questioning the motivations of the people who are putting out this rhetoric. Again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to drop 3 things on you. Reuters smashed the gangs. Okay? UK. There's your search term. Smash the gangs, UK. That's from Reuters. Okay? Also, I want you to look up Bill Maher. Yes, I'm recommending Bill Maher, the last adult on the left. He's not our friend. He's not our friend, but somebody definitely red-pilled his ass. New rule. Okay, you guys know the Canadian national anthem, Oh Canada. His bit is called Whoa Canada. It's 8 minutes long. I want you to look that up as soon as I get off of here. I wanted to have a transcript, but we haven't got that kind of time. He is acknowledging that all of the things that we say, well, Canada does it, Europe does it. How's that working out for Canada? Particularly Sweden. And Bill Maher actually calls out Sweden. Oh, and I will give one quote. I will give one quote from that video. That the crime is increased in Sweden with the influx of the refugees. Now, you can say associating an increase in crime with the arrival of the refugees is racist, but is it incorrect? Factually, it is not. Diversity, diversity, diversity. I want you to look up diversity is not strength. That seems easy enough, but that's how ingrained it is. And what it will pull up for you is a Danish academic study that just found that it does nothing but erode confidence, not only between the mother culture and the immigrants, but amongst the immigrants themselves. I want you to look up diversity, strength, Putnam, Putnam. He was a devout liberal. He did a groundbreaking study the results of which he kept suppressed for over a decade after he came to the conclusions, because he double checked everything. He ran it through 3 different variables and came to the inescapable conclusion that no matter how much he wanted to believe diversity is our strength, there was no empirical evidence to support that. What are you saying, Bart? Are you saying we just got to throw out everybody and become homogenous? And homogenous is my other college word. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying, with little to no apology, is the fact that homogenous cultures, whether we are talking culturally homogenous, ethnically homogenous, or racially homogenous, tend to have higher levels of public trust and be more functional civilizations, period, end of statement, done. Now, I'm sorry if that upsets your emotional argument. I'm sorry if that makes you feel something other than warm fuzzies, because really people are all the same. Diversity is our strength. It is eroding us. Now, racial and ethnic politics aside, culturally, and why I'm saying racial and ethnic politics aside is because what are you seeing right now? What are you seeing right now? Who's coming back to the middle? What demographics are getting behind Trump in a way that has leftists clutching their pearls and tearing their hair out? Blacks and Hispanics. Why? Because they are realizing that culturally we are under threat. In spite of the cultural landmines that the left has laid out for the black community, keeping fathers out of the homes, keeping them dependent on government aid to survive, removing the work ethic, having young men growing up in single parent homes, they are realizing, they are coming to the realization at long last, and this is the convergence of crises. They are coming to the realization that these leftists are not our friends, and what they are doing is destructive. Now, of course, you have a few, and I'm going to say this, and I don't care if it makes anybody that could best be described as house Negroes at this point, who want to stay on the porch and let liberal massa keep giving them checks. But the majority of the black community is coming around. It's terrifying the left right now. Here's a little thing about the Hispanic demographic, right? Culturally, they are ridiculously conservative. More so among the Cubans who have seen the results of communism. But across the board, the Latin community, do you think they play the pronoun game? Do you think they support the trans agenda or even LGBT causes, period? No, they do not. And they are seeing, even some of them that may have their origins in coming across that southern border illegally, they are seeing what an uncontrolled border looks like. They are seeing the chaos erupt in their communities that they left their countries to get away from. The tide is turning. So while we have a mountain of empirical evidence that diversity is not our damn strength, we don't have to get into the more comfortable elements. We don't have to get into the more uncomfortable elements, because there are plenty of people out there that I really don't like those people darker than me. Plenty of that. We don't even need to touch it. I'm not talking that we need to get back to an ethno state. Would it function? Absolutely. Would it prosper? Seamlessly. Inevitably. As did every culture in Europe before the influx of immigrants. But I'm not advocating for an ethno state. Not even for the chosen. We'll get to y'all in a minute. I mean, who knows? But culturally, we cannot afford their idea of diversity, which is everybody hangs on to their own thing and nobody assimilates and you know and continue to hate on America in the process. You can't do that and expect to hold up. And the good news is, boys and girls, the good news is people are realizing that diversity is our weakness when it comes to culture or ethnicity, that it works better when we are culturally homogenous. But diversity of thought is an idea whose time has come. And that is the one diversity that the left has always vehemently and, when necessary, violently opposed, is diversity of thought. I welcome anybody to that cultural table. I welcome anybody to that cultural table who is with the values of the West. The sovereignty of the individual, representative government, representative republic specifically, and a moral compass. You don't have to share my faith in the carpenter. But this throwing any moral or ethical grounds to the wind or making them purely situational, that will no longer suffice. Which one of our founders, history quiz, which one of our founders said that our Constitution is built for a moral people and will not work with any other? Who said that? Which one? Somebody. Come on, one of you guys know. Even if you don't know, you know what was said. Our Constitution, our form of government is suited to a moral people and will not suffice for anything else. And the other good news about that is that thanks to diversity of thought, we are having that awakening. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to avoid what I'm going to close with. Look up diversity Danish study. Look up diversity Putnam study. And every time, again, I'm planting those seeds. I'm using those propaganda techniques. I'm planting those seeds. I want you to hear it in your head every single time that somebody just rattles that off. And when you start paying attention, you'll see how often, and everybody, Democrats, Republicans, people who know better. Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. No campaign speech that is pandering to these different ethnicities and demographics is complete without somebody having to say it. I realize as an American that diversity is our greatest strength. There is nothing to support that. Zero, zip, nada, nothing to support that. And if we are going to walk in truth, then we need to start calling people on it. It erodes confidence. And we are more deeply polarized than we have been since the year of the trip hammer in 1968. A little more recent than the Civil War. I know that's the one that everybody likes to go to, particularly the cadaver in chief in this little speech. You know, everything's the worst thing that happened since the Civil War. Worst thing that happened since the Civil War. Nazi lighting notwithstanding. This is where he said he was bringing the nation together by telling us that half of us needed to be locked away because we were a threat to democracy. Did nobody check him? Anyway, call him on it. Because the longer they get away with spitting lies without anybody checking them, the more they're going to seem like truth. Call them on it, no matter what it costs you. Diversity is our strength. Really? How? 2 words, that's it. Well, you know, diversity is our strength. Really? How? Diversity is our strength. 2 more words. Prove it. 3 words. Diversity is our strength. Based on what? 3 more words. Diversity is our strength. In what way? There is zero evidence to substantiate that. Look up the Putnam study, the Danish study, and the last 5 studies that have come out of major universities in the United States. Why are they going to be hard to find? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. Nothing could be further from the truth. And it is that overemphasis on every diversity, but diversity of thought, that has led us up to the edge of the subject of the film that we began on today. And I want to get into this. Civil War, A24 Film Group. This is the boldest piece of cinema that has come down the pike in I can't remember when. And graphics like this in the promo are actually somewhat misleading. In fact, I can't remember a single battle. No, there was one, I think, that tentatively took place in New York City. But, stuff like this, it's exceedingly misleading. If you go into this movie expecting politics of any sort, you were going to be bitterly disappointed, which is exactly the point. And I believe that was by design. They gave no background as to how we got here. The starting point of this film, they gave us no background. That was an economic collapse. Did Trump do it? Did Biden do it? Was it Democrats, Republicans? Did somebody invade? Was there a terrorist attack? Nothing. Drops you right in the middle of the story. This is where we are now, in the waning days of the war. How did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where we're at? Nothing, no background. If you go looking for politics, you're going to be disappointed. And anyone who tries to tell you, well, when you think about it this way, dude, it's very clear that they're trying to say this about Joe Biden, or you're trying to say this about, they're idiots. They're idiots. I won't say that. They could have a case to make, but force them to make that case, because there was no politics. One of the promos that you see, and in fact on this map, the Western powers, the Western forces, right? California and Texas. What have we heard in all the prelude to this? How are California and Texas connected? I mean, how does that work? And they never say. And I think that was on purpose. How are Texas and California connected? I don't know. They never elaborate on it. How is there an alliance between this blue state and this red state? This was done by design, because they don't want to give you that easy good guy, bad guy, that easy Democrat, Republican. Wait a minute, California and Texas? Whose side are you on? That's the point. Because what it is the saddest of stories, and the thing that I've tried to tell people to back away from the brink on, and that is Americans killing Americans. Do I have my preferences? Absolutely. Wear them right here on my sleeve, baby. Do I have my preconceived hatreds and disdains and disgust? Absolutely, and I make no bones about it. But the one thing that all of you should know about me by now, particularly those of you that know me in real life, is that I'm going to give it to you straight, and I am going to engage in full, open, critical thought and analysis before I come to a conclusion. I'm not going to let somebody else put their opinion in my head and spew it like it was my own. And A24, God bless him, the guts of these people to make this film and not try to plant that seed in your head and say good guy, bad guy, to paint it for the horror, the moments of levity. This is war, man. The moments of levity that punctuate the chaos, the overwhelming dread. There are moments that were cerebral. There are moments that were utterly visceral, gut-wrenching, visceral. Everybody here, I feel like, everybody here, my friends, my fans, my followers, you guys already know. You've already contemplated this in its full enormity. You know that this isn't the Manson-Nixon line. I love that joke. Mason-Dixon line. There's no north-south divide here. Hell, the states and territories that they assigned randomly on the map, you can make a case for all that, but they don't. They don't give you any background. Why? Because ultimately that isn't what matters. What matters is that we have arrived at this point, which we have all dreaded, and it's Americans killing Americans. It is told through the eyes of Kirsten Dunst's character. And man, if you would have told me I'd be singing the praises of any role that Kirsten Dunst ever did, I'd have told you were crazy. I shed tears during this movie, man. I shed tears during this movie just on the strength of how hard she came across with that character. It was incredible, man. Very, very well acted. But it's told through her eyes. It is the waning days. I'm going to minimize the spoilers. It's the waning days of the first big engagement of the Civil War. Will it be the end? Probably not. They allude to the fact. In fact, there were several comments made. It's like, once DC falls, the Western forces will probably start fighting each other, and they're probably right. But that's where we arrive. The waning days of the war, and they get a story, and they want to interview the president. So they're making a beeline to Washington, D.C., and they have to go through what's essentially loyalist territories, but contested ground, where Americans are killing Americans, where soldiers and forces of the United States government are engaging in atrocities against civilians. Some of those scenes are not easy to watch. When someone dies as a result of this unspeakable horror, it affects people, and every one of these actors were able to convey that. When you were looking for good guys and bad guys, and this isn't a spoiler because it's in the damn trailer or any of the reviews that are on YouTube, this scene here, who's doing what? They don't even allude to good guy, bad guys, but who's doing what? Who's out there? Who's shooting? And his response, verbatim, someone is trying to kill us, and we are trying to kill them. We are so hell-bent on assigning moral values to this chaos that has been building up. On the left, we're on the right side of history. On the right, we are fighting the forces of tyranny. Who's right? Who's wrong? It doesn't matter. You've heard me go on tirades against the Boogaloo crowd, which, by the way, these guys really did their homework. In a couple of the scenes where the insurgents are fighting federal forces, you see a couple of guys in Hawaiian shirts. I was like, well done, brother. Never painted anybody as racist or sexist or anti-Semitic or homophobic. There were no phobes or ists even in this movie. Americans killing Americans. You have heard me go on tirades against the Boogaloo crowd. I can't wait. Nothing's going to change till we go dragging them out with ropes and rifles. Really, Sparky? Because I don't see you holding a rope or a rifle. Dennis, I know you know exactly who I'm talking to. Oh, that's clever, dude. That's clever. Charlie, 100% listen to vets and their humor. George, oh yeah, George, she totally has. Charlie, I think you just made a friend. Dennis knows exactly who I'm talking about. The crowd that now, while I'm over here reluctantly optimistic, and you know what, guys, I will take those slings and arrows. Bart, you got too much confidence in it. People who are dear friends of mine, dear, close friends of mine who tell me point blank, I do not share your optimism. And I get that. You make the case for that. I'm holding on to it. I'm telling people to continue to participate. Once upon a time, you've heard it come out of my mouth. Don't vote. It only encourages them. I'm encouraging people to stay and participate in the process as long as possible. Why? Because of the 4 boxes. The soapbox, the one I'm on now. The ballot box, which is the one that hopefully they don't have total control of by November. Don't think just because I'm saying participate that I'm naive about all the mischief that's going on. You should know me better than that. And if you don't, better ask somebody. The soap box, the ballot box, then the jury box, assuming the judiciary hasn't already been overrun, and then we go to the cartridge box. And you got these guys talking all this game, and all they are doing is giving themselves an excuse. I'm staying in the shadows. I'm staying off the radar. No, you're running from the fight. There's a difference between not desiring the fight and running away from it. You're not going public because you don't want your voice out there, because you know it's about to turn and you don't want it to get flipped back on you. You don't want the Stasi to get called on you by a neighbor who hadn't eaten in 3 days. It's too late for me, man. I don't care. I am telling people to continue to participate in the process because the alternative is nothing nice. My guys out there that are my brothers, my guys out there that are combat vets, my guys out there that have seen bloodshed up close, the people out there who have watched a kid try to hold his intestines in after getting laced open with a... People who have seen it know. So when I see these pretenders with their sexy little karambits and their tough talk, ain't nothing gonna change when we start dragging them out with rifles and ropes. You ain't holding a rifle or a rope, Sparky. And your words are empty because your soul's not behind it, because you haven't given it the thought. You looking forward to shooting your neighbor? Start with me. Show me something. Let's see how committed you are to this premise, tough guy. Well, I don't want to shoot you. I like you. You're one of the good guys. Am I? You feel that way now. But what if you get caught in that little ant march death spiral and somebody tells you different? Can't happen. We watched it happen for 3 years. Thankfully, no shooting was involved. That's how easily people can be led to turn one on another. I want you to see this film, people. I want you to see this film. And I sing its praises because it did not advocate. It did not say good guy, bad guy. It did not make any moral judgments on anyone, because in war, particularly a war the likes of which we are building up to, there are no moral judgments to be made. It's Americans killing Americans. You ready to stomach that? I don't mean, I don't mean, dude, that guy's only alive because it's against law to kill him. Yeah, all right, we all joke about that. Are you ready to stomach killing Americans? And while we're on the topic, is that even the fight? Left versus right? Is that even the fight? Democrat, Republican, blue state, red state? Is that even the fight? What did I say before? And I had this conversation with my lovely wife just the other day. I'm fully aware that the 80% in the middle does not share either the idiocy or the enthusiasm in that idiocy that we hear coming from the extremes. There are people on the far right that I break no bread with, want nothing to do with, the Boogaloo crowd, those cats, the don't vote, we just need rifles and ropes crowd. I got no time for those guys. None. Just like I've got no time for dissent will not be tolerated, put them in the gulag. Right-wing extremists need to be taken out preemptively from the Merrick Garland Justice Department. I got nothing to do with these guys over here, and I got nothing to do with these guys over here. But the problem is that these guys over here on the far right, nothing's going to save us but ropes and rifles. They don't have their hands on the levers of power right now. The other side does. And they are desperate to hang on to it. And here's where it gets even better. What if it flips? Every power that they have given themselves to head us off at the pass now goes into the hands of somebody else with their hand on the switch. And if those people are just as far gone, no matter which way you shift the Overton window, the end result is the same. Americans killing Americans. Are you really up for that? If it becomes a conflict, if it descends into that and we have no choice, let the conflict be between the people who want to impose their will and those of us who just want to be left alone. That's a hill worth dying on. When authoritarians try to impose themselves upon you, that is a hill worth dying on. But when it's just the loudest voices on the extremes, and you guys know this statement is not coming from weakness or cowardice on my part. I will not run from the fight. You guys know not just my skill set, but my inclination when it comes to acts of physical violence. I will not run from the fight. But I pray that it does not come. I fear at this point. Scripture says don't be afraid, so maybe apprehensive. I am apprehensive. I am concerned at this point that it may be inevitable. But I will not hear from the loudest voices on either side. I will not hear from that the only way we're going to settle is rifles and ropes. It may come to that. God forbid those people could wind up being right. And if they are, well, we don't really have a choice, do we? The people on the left that say that we are all existential enemies of the state. Meanwhile, hey, all those MS-13 guys, those Islamic guys, and the Chinese guys were letting across the border. Oh no, man, no harm, no foul. We really got to worry about that dude with the MAGA hat. I got nothing to do with them either. And unfortunately, they're the ones with their hands on the controls of power. I pray that we step back from the brink. I pray for a regime change in November that in spite of all of the efforts that we know that they were successful with in 2020, that they will fail. I pray that they do not take it to the next level that I am concerned they will, which is to kill the opposition. But the reason I am concerned about all of this right now, folks, is that we are in completely uncharted territory right now. Constitutionally, militarily, politically, we are in completely uncharted territory right now. Nothing is off the table, up to and including it descending into Americans killing Americans. So when we ponder all of the possible outcomes and when we ponder all of the possible paths of how we arrive there, you had better reach deep and ask yourself. I don't have any problem putting a slug in someone who is coming to take my freedom or harm my family or their representative thereof. That could mean a cop. That could mean, God forbid, an American soldier. That could mean a neighbor working for a rival civil faction. But here's where it ties in with my diversity thing, and you guys didn't see this coming. Maybe you did. I was hoping my Russian friend would be here today. When the Soviet Union was falling apart and the Russians were on the steps of the Kremlin, the order was given to Russian soldiers to fire on their countrymen, and they refused. Why? because those are my countrymen. Many times in homogenous cultures, whether it's racially, ethnically, or culturally homogenous, when revolutions were happening, soldiers were given orders to fire on those that were standing against the government, standing against the authoritarians, and they refused. Why? Because these are my countrymen. So explain to me how diversity is our strength culturally when we are driven into splits on identity politics. Explain to me an American, if you, okay, 1940s, an American being ordered to shoot another American versus 2024, a Mexican immigrant American being ordered to shoot a Chinese college student American, a Democrat blue state cop American being asked to shoot a MAGA hat wearing red state American. Do you understand? Because that's how it's viewed. We can't even get it together culturally to say that we are all Americans. That's been taken from us. No, fuck that. Hasn't been taken from us. We gave it away. We gave it away. Like the film, Sonny, you showed up at the right time. I knew you were going to be there. Like the film, I cannot account for how we got here. All I can do is look and see the mess that we're about to step into as a tragedy of biblical proportions and pray that we step our ass back from the brink. Again, not a spoiler alert, but early on in the film, she said, every time I took pictures and covered a war zone, I was sending pictures. I was sending these pictures home as a message. Don't let it happen here. In the film, nobody listened. In the film, nobody listened. We're not listening now. So I want you to see the film. I want you to take a good look at it, and I want you to reflect. Yep. And dude, and Joey, and I'm glad you brought that up. You guys know me well enough to know I'm not naive about any of these things. Hell, man, I bring 2/3 of them to most of y'all's attention. The influx of Chinese single military age men floating across in Arizona and California over the last couple of months, right? The Middle Eastern terror watch list guys that are storming across the border, totally unvetted. The fact that Chinese troops are training in Canada. I'm not naive, man. I'm not naive. But see, that's why I keep coming back to this about pulling it together culturally. We have enough going on, outside forces that want to undermine us from within, because the one historical maxim, and everybody's always known it, from Admiral Yamamoto, there'd be a rifle behind every blade of grass. We can never invade the mainland United States. They know they can't Red Dawn us, not in the state we're in now, until Americans are killing Americans. So for you Boogaloo boys that can't wait to get there, thanks. Real heads up thinking there, Sparky. Let's hurry up and start shooting each other so the rest of these guys can storm in and eat us alive from the inside out. You can feel about this however you want. From how we got here to where it's headed, to who the enemies are going to be, to how we arrive there, to how the factions split up, to who is the real fascist, the real communist, the authoritarians versus the small L libertarians. You guys can have that discussion all day long, but what I'm asking you to do, for the love of God, is think. Think. before you go spewing nonsense. Think before you go spewing that dude in a red hat who's a senior freaking citizen is an existential threat to democracy. Think before you go spewing that y'all need to put down the damn ballot and stop voting. They're going to steal it anyway. We better get a rope and a rifle. Think. And even now, I don't think thinking is going to save us. Rhetoric isn't going to save us. I want you to see this film so you can recognize that every other tangential fact relevant to this pales in comparison to the root, and the root is Americans killing Americans. If you were celebrating that on any level, you and I have nothing further to discuss. If confronted with it, you would run from the fight. You and I have nothing further to discuss. But none of these things are worth contemplating if we don't contemplate them within the context of the irrefutable fact that this is a tragic, tragic situation. And that if we pull through this, not just as a nation and a people, but as a culture, the West and Western civilization, if we pull through this, I hope that we would learn the lessons to not be here again. But as a student of history, I know better. For decades, we have pathologized weakness as a disease, thus making it acceptable, normalizing it, even calling to support it and coddle it. Weakness has become the new normal. Yes. Knock it off. Weakness has become the new normal. We have coddled it. And this is the inevitable result. The only decision left to be made is a decision that's to be made on an individual level. The sides have already been chosen. The factions have already been divided. The course has already been set. The dominoes are already tumbling. The only decision that remains is where you will stand when the hammer falls. And I look to the boss man and the carpenter for guidance to that end. Because God is my witness, I may carry the strength to be up for that fight, but I don't know that I carry the wisdom and discernment to know when that wrath is righteous and when it's based on my preconceived hatreds. Maybe those preconceived hatreds are rooted in righteousness. I don't know. But the only decision to be made, the factions have already divided. The authoritarians and the small L libertarians have already split. The events have already occurred. Dominoes are tumbling. Course has been set. Everything is in motion. The only decision left to make, and you better spend a lot of time soul searching on this, is if you woke up tomorrow morning, go see the film. If you woke up tomorrow morning and this set of circumstances was our existence, because I promise you it's not as far away as you think. If you woke up tomorrow morning and this was your world, this was our world, where are you going to be when the hammer falls? And give that a lot of thought, because no conclusion that you ever come to will ever be so important. I'm going to close with a prayer. Lord God, most of the time I do keep it on a more personal level, man, but I grieve. I grieve for my nation right now. Not out of any grandiose notion, but just out of a clear observation of how far we've fallen and the dangerous ground on which we tread. I pray for the outcome of this nation. As always, thy will, not mine, be done. Maybe you see fit for us to fall, and that's part of the divine plan, and so be it. But for all of these individuals out here who may be forced to confront such an individuality, I ask that you give them clarity and discernment. I ask that you peel the scales from their eyes and let them take a deep, deep look inside themselves. See who they really are. I thank you for giving us a couple of test runs over the last few years to separate the wheat from the chaff, to have people show who they really were on the inside. And I ask that you give the people that are gathered here the clarity to understand that you can't break bread with those folks, that they're unreachable, and to distance themselves. Because what are those people but tools of the deceiver? Keep these people from deception, Lord. Give them that clarity and discernment. Help them to find strength. It is only as strong individuals that we represent anything as a collective. And if we can keep ourselves as individuals rooted in your light and your truth and your righteousness, well, then everything is exactly as it should be. Keep us on the path, Lord. For those who are seeking, open their eyes. For those who are looking for answers, give them the ears to hear. For those who are carrying a burden, help them to lay that burden down, but to pick up their cross and serve that greater purpose. And help me to be a better vessel to that end for your will and your word here in this world. I pray these things in the name of the risen Christ, whom I ever serve. Amen. Little heavy. Appreciate y'all being here, man. Thank you. Go back and share it. I'm gonna pass around that little digital collection plate like I always do, man. I'm on Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all that good stuff. You want to drop a little coin in the offering plate, that's totally cool. But you guys do understand that this is primarily a labor of love, man. So, and you also understand that reluctantly we are still living in a Biden economy for at least another few months. So some of y'all maybe can't kick down, and that's totally all right too, man. But here's what I will ask you to do. If you got a social media presence of your own, like my girl Day, who I just saw. How are you doing, sweetheart? Saw you lurking out there in the background, you gorgeous thing. If you guys have a social media platform of your own, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, download the link, share it. Share the podcast with some other people, like minds, kindred spirits. Let them know this fat, toothless cripple gets on every Sunday, rants and raves for a couple hours, but he's a like mind, he's a kindred spirit. I think you get something out of it, man. So share the program, expand that reach, spread the gospel, baby. All of my reverends, rangers, my sinners, sisters, my prophets of doom out there, give us a little more reach. And here's what else you can do. Not just for me, but for yourselves, guys. My buddy Stone coined the hashtag Live the Three, baby. Live the Three. Live the Three? What the hell is that about? 3 prime directives, man. The signal to noise ratio is all jacked up right now. But burying in that noise, you've got to be that signal that punches through the noise, break through all the BS, break through all the nonsense, and carry that signal, carry the light and the truth, be the signal to break through the noise. You got to be that light in a world full of darkness. They will try to crush you with that darkness, demoralize, emasculate you, dehumanize you with that darkness, make you think there's nothing but darkness. You got to be that light. You got to be that light that punches through the darkness, which brings me to the third and final and most important rule, the prime directive, the iron rule. You have got to be that strength in a world full of weakness. I don't mean just here, strong here, but strong here, here, and even here. Because without that strength, you won't have the punch to get that signal through the noise. Without strength, you will not have the fortitude and the resiliency and the tenacity to carry that light through the darkness and punch on through to the other side. So strength above all. Walk in truth, walk in strength. Strength, clarity, and discernment. Every time you pray, strength, clarity, and discernment. God bless you all for being here, man. I love y'all, man. Love y'all. Better every week, man. Better every week. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Walk in the light. Carpenter's got your back. Boss man's got the plan. Follow it. Love y'all. See you next Sunday. Peace. Love y'all, man.